With the 2026 NBA draft about a month away, what an amazing opportunity for me to do my first NBA mock draft for the first 14 picks of this NBA draft. So if you want to hear this and see who I think will be selected in the first 14 picks, tune in right after the intro. Thank you for tuning in to podcast number 97 of Sports Talk with JWock. I'm your host, Jonah Walkenfuss, and let's dive right into my first mock draft of the 2026 NBA draft, where the Washington Wizards were fortunate enough to get the number one pick in the draft in one of the most stacked draft classes that we have seen in multiple years. We thought last year's draft class was stacked. This year might top that. And AJ DeBonsta, in my opinion, is the number one player that the Wizards should be having on their board right now. There has been talks about the Wizards possibly looking to move down in this draft because maybe AJ DeBonsta just isn't the best fit for them. But in my opinion, I just don't understand why. When you have a player as good as AJ DeBonsta coming out of college, I just feel like you can't pass up on him, especially you're the Wizards. I don't care if you just traded for Trae Young and Anthony Davis. You have to get a player that can not just be good now, but establish your future. And I know you have good players like Trey Johnson, Alex Sarr, Bilal Coulibaly, Keyshawn George, and other company. AJ DeBonsta, to me, feels like a Tracy McGrady type of player. And I feel like you just can't pass up on that, especially with the Jazz right below you. They're going to want AJ DeBonsta. And if you want to trade that pick, you better be asking for a lot of picks in the future. And I just don't know if the Jazz will do that. I just think the Wizards should stay at pick number one. AJ DeBonsta is a special talent. And who knows what the next upcoming years are going to look like. Next year so far is not looking as stacked as this year. And you have the opportunity to draft the best player in one of the most stacked classes. In my opinion, that's a no-brainer. And I think AJ DeBonsta is the clear-cut number one pick in this draft. At the number 2 pick, we have the Utah Jazz, the team that I just really don't like that much because of their unethical tanking. But regardless, they get the number 2 pick. And this is an interesting situation because, in my opinion, the top 4 in no particular order is DeBonsta, Peterson, Boozer, and Wilson. The problem is with Boozer and Wilson, who I think could be better players than Peterson when it's all said and done, they don't need a forward right now because they have Markin and Jaren Jackson Jr. They have even like Ace Bailey, technically, Walker Kessler. They're going to have to make a decision on him. He's going to be a restricted free agent this offseason. Things are going to get interesting. I still think this is Darren Peterson for now. That's going to drop some genuine questions for Keyshawn George or Keontae George, who was drafted out of Baylor just a few years ago. He's been really stepping it up scoring-wise, but Darren Peterson already went in his pre-draft interviews, and he said that he is going to be a point guard. It's going to get interesting with that. And then you have Isaiah Collier, who is, in my opinion, a very underrated point guard. He just needs to work on his jump shot, but yeah, I think Darren Peterson's a pick now. I do think the Jazz will try to trade up or just make a deal with the Wizards to get AJ DeBonsta on this team, just because it seems like AJ DeBonsta also wants to go to the Jazz. But we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. But I do think Darren Peterson is going to be the player, as of now, that's going to go number 2 to the Utah Jazz. At the 3rd pick, we have the Memphis Grizzlies, and if you don't know, the Grizzlies are a very analytic-driven team. They love analytics. They love being able to focus on that, and in my opinion, the best player analytics-wise that's on the board is Cameron Boozer. Cameron Boozer could be a player down the road that we look at and go, he's the best player in this draft a few years later. But as of now, Peterson and DeBonsta are just the more exciting prospects. Boozer is going to be the most NBA ready out of any of the 4, including Caleb Wilson. Boozer is just a player that, in my opinion, is just going to be a great basketball player for 8 to 10 years, if not longer, where he's going to be able to average 20-plus points, 10-plus rebounds, 5-plus assists, and he's just going to be a cornerstone piece to a possible championship team. Cameron Boozer knows how to win at all levels, and I think he's going to be able to prove that again in the NBA. Also, following under his father's footsteps, Carlos Boozer. Obviously, I don't think Carlos Boozer played for the Grizzlies, but in the NBA, we'll be able to see another father-son duo, and his other son, Caden Boozer, might be in the league next year. But Cameron Boozer is the third pick for the Grizzlies, in my opinion. At pick number 4, we have my Chicago Bulls. And in my opinion, the Bulls have the easiest pick of the draft. They literally select who's remaining of AJ DeBonsta, Darren Peterson, Cameron Boozer, and, well, the last remaining one, Caleb Wilson. And let's be real, this is not like some oh, this is a participation, or it's like, hey, you get him now. Like, this is a great pick. I'm super excited if the Bulls get Caleb Wilson or Cameron Boozer, which I think will be the more likely. I think Caleb Wilson will be more likely there when the Bulls are selecting at 4. I don't think a Darius Acuff or a Keaton Wagler deserve to be in the top 4 with how good of a freshman season, especially Caleb Wilson had. And I think Caleb Wilson, from a lot of people are saying, could be like a mini young Kevin Garnett. I'm not 100% going to just be like holding him to that standard, but he definitely has high potential. He's got a high motor, and that's something Chicago has needed for years and years. They haven't had a player like that since kind of Jimmy Butler, but mostly Joakim Noah. So getting Caleb Wilson on the Bulls is going to be a huge start to a brand new Chicago Bulls team that we'll see next season. At the number 5 pick, we have the Los Angeles Clippers, which was sent over from the Pacers because the Pacers traded for Zubac. They sent the Clippers a top 4 protected pick this year, and it ended up going to pick number 5. So the Pacers lose that pick, and the Clippers get it. And I think this is a Keaton Wagler pick. This has Keaton Wagler written all over, in my opinion. Keaton Wagler, we didn't expect him to be as good as he was going to be his freshman year, but he ended up balling out and playing extremely well for Illinois. And in my opinion, I feel like Illinois prospects are either hit or miss, and I think Keaton Wagler is going to be a great player. Some are comparing him to a Tyrese Halliburton. I don't really see that as much, but I do see him being a very quality player. And Darius Acuff just doesn't make sense to me with the Clippers. I just feel like with Darius Garland on the team, you have 2 really small guards like that. It just wouldn't work out. And Wagler has some serious star potential anyways, and I think this is a great pick for the Los Angeles Clippers. At the number 6 pick now, this is where it gets interesting. We have the Brooklyn Nets, and they could very well go Darius Acuff, or they could go Mikel Brown Jr. I don't know if it's Mikel or Mikel. I'm just going to say Mikel Brown Jr. just because why not? But Darius Acuff, to me, it feels like could be the pick, like I said. But it's just interesting because you look at the Nets draft last year, and they drafted Yegor Dioman at, I believe, pick 8. Then they drafted Nolan Traore later on in the first round, and Ben Saraf later along in the first round as well. Those are 3 point guards. And the players that they realistically should be drafting at this range is a point guard. They could go an Ade Mara. I just don't think that they will. As of now, I'm Mikel Brown Jr. could definitely be good, but I'm going to lean Acuff just because Acuff has serious star potential as a scorer. He literally, in my opinion, could be one of those players that goes down the road in a couple years as one of the leading scorers in the NBA. The problem with Darius Acuff and why he's not going higher on my mock draft is his lack of defense. He's just not the greatest defender, and his size really limits him, in my opinion. So if he can find his way in the league as a 6'3 guard, that's great. But who knows? I still think he's going to be a great scorer, but I just don't have him going higher than 6. He could go 5, I guess, but I don't see him going to the Clippers. Anyways, at the number 7 pick, the Sacramento Kings are selecting, and man, I tell you what, the Kings have been unlucky for multiple years. This is an interesting one. I do think this is a Mikel Brown Jr. pick for them. They could go Kingston Flemings, but I do think they're going to want to get a little bit of a bigger guard, and in my opinion, I think Mikel Brown Jr. has superstar potential. I'm not even joking when I say that. He was a player that if the Bulls stayed at 9, I would have 100% loved him there. But I'm happy they aren't at 9 anymore, partially because they're going to get a great player, but also Mikel Brown Jr. is not going to be there at 9, in my opinion. He just has shown too much flashes. He didn't get to play in the March Madness tournament due to injury, but I do think he's going to be a great player in this league. Yeah. So at pick number 8, we have the Atlanta Hawks, and this is where it gets interesting. We've had 3 straight guards drafted in a row in my mock draft, and I think that's going to where it changes here. The Atlanta Hawks need a big man, and Ade Mara at 7'3", I believe, without shoes on, is insane. He had a 7'9" reach. I mean, I believe that's what it was. Ade Mara just looks like a player that would fit so well with Atlanta. Unfortunately, they don't have Trae Young to throw the lobs, but Atlanta's going to need a big. I'm not really sold on Onyeka Okongwu. They traded away Kristaps Porzingis. They need a big man, and I think Ade Mara can be their serviceable big for years to come. At pick number 9, we have the Dallas Mavericks, and they're an interesting team as well. There's a lot of speculation that Kyrie Irving could very much get traded this year, this offseason specifically, and that could get interesting for the Mavericks. In my opinion, as of now, I have them drafting Braden Burries. Braden Burries is one of my favorite prospects in this draft class. He's not like the flashy, athletic, I'm going to posterize you kind of guy, but he's going to just get buckets, and he's going to work hard defensively. He's going to pick you up full court. He's a guy that I think could mesh really well with the Dallas Mavericks and that newer regime that they're trying to do. And with Cooper Flagg as the main scorer guy, Braden Burries I think could be a very good Robin to Batman kind of thing, or the jelly to peanut butter, I guess. I don't know. I'm talking about iconic duos. Braden Burries could definitely be that guy and help out this Dallas Mavericks team now and for the future. And he could plug in with Kyrie Irving, in my opinion. I know it's a little bit of a smaller guard duo, but Burries' defense can make up for that for sure. At the number 10 pick, the Milwaukee Bucks have an interesting decision. There's obviously going to be talks. That's going to be the main talk of this offseason for the Bucks especially is going to be, is Giannis going to get traded? I personally don't even want to talk about that. I don't know if he's going to. I think that's Giannis's decision. I don't think the Bucks should decide if they should trade him or not, because if Giannis doesn't want to get traded, or he's not in a hurry to get traded, the Bucks shouldn't even think about it, in my opinion. If Giannis goes up to the front office and says, I want to get traded, then that's when the Bucks should trade him. But at the 10th pick, I do think they need to look more towards the future instead of just the present. If they look towards more of the present, I would say a Yaxel Lendeborg would look good as a pick, but he's a 23-year-old. In my opinion, I think the Bucks really need to get that insurance so that if Giannis does get traded, if he leaves in free agency, or when he retires or whatever, they got to have someone there to be able to establish something so that they can feel confident about the future. And I think Nate Ament from the Tennessee Volunteers is a great pickup for him. Ament, in my opinion, really rose in his stock a few months ago. Didn't have the best March Madness tournament, but he's a young enough player, in my opinion, that if he can gain some muscle weight, could be a very, very solid player in the league. He's shown great flashes of scoring. He's a solid defender. He just needs to work on some efficiency, but he played for one of the best coaches in Rick Barnes at Tennessee, and I think Nate Ament is a great pick for the Bucks. And actually, I think a lot of mock drafts have him going there anyways. At the 11th pick, we have the Golden State Warriors, another pick that I think could very much get traded. You know, we always hear about picks getting traded, and then hardly any of them ever do. But I do really think this Warriors pick could get traded. I think they're getting a little desperate and trying to get Curry another ring. But at this point, if Kingston Flemings is still on the board, I just don't know how you don't take him. I know Yaxel Lendeborg is there, but Kingston Flemings could be an excellent pickup for the Golden State Warriors. He's a very versatile defender. He didn't have the best measurements. I think he had a 6'3" wingspan, which is not great, but he makes up with it with his athleticism and scoring ability, and he could be a great backup point guard to Steph Curry to start it off. And then when Curry, retires or goes to another team, which I don't think will happen, Kingston Flemings could definitely take over and become that next guard for the Golden State Warriors. And when you have a player that could have gone top 5 a few months ago drop to pick 11, I feel like that's a no-brainer. Next up, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder, and oh my goodness, I still can't believe the Thunder are just getting lottery pick after lottery pick, even after winning championships. And unfortunately for the NBA, I guess, I think this is a time where the Thunder will pick up a guy like Yaxel Lendeborg. Yaxel Lendeborg, the only downside to his game is his age. He's 23 years old, coming in as a prospect that's definitely older, but in my opinion, Yaxel Lendeborg has zero weaknesses, in my opinion, other than maybe a little bit of lack of speed. But like, he would fill in so well with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that would let the Thunder maybe get off of Lou Dort's contract so that they can really have a little bit of more cap flexibility trying to re-sign certain players. But I think Yaxel Lendeborg just seems like the fit for the Oklahoma City Thunder, as we have the 13th pick now, where I think the Miami Heat would have been just absolutely loving getting Yaxel Lendeborg at pick 13, but unfortunately he's not there. A player that I have in mind is LeBaron Philon for the Miami Heat. They definitely need another point guard, especially, I just feel like they don't really have one. Davion Mitchell's good and all, but it's not great. Tyler Hero is an interesting one. He might be involved in a package in a trade if they go for a Giannis. I still just don't see Giannis getting traded yet. But LeBaron Philon and Karim Lopez are the two players that I think could very well be selected by the Heat. I'm going to go the safe pick and go Philon as of now, just because Philon is an excellent scorer. It just feels like he fills in and plays that Miami Heat style kind of basketball. Karim Lopez is more of a project player, and I think if the Heat do keep this pick, Pat Riley's definitely going to want to get a player that's going to be able to not only fill in and buy or sell some jerseys, but he's also going to want to get a guy that's going to be able to impact the team right away. And the final pick, the 14th pick of the lottery, goes to the Charlotte Hornets. And they've got an interesting situation. They had a very promising season last year. LaMelo Ball stayed healthy. I think that's one of the big keys. Con Knippel, their rookie, got second in Rookie of the Year votes. He was an excellent rookie. They played well. I think they're going to re-sign Kobe White. I also really like Brandon Miller. I think he's a great player. I think this is a draft where I think the Hornets should draft a big man in this scenario. And I'm looking at either Morris Johnson Jr., I'm looking at Hans Steinbeck, or I'm looking at Jaden Quaintance. And in my opinion, this seems like a Steinbeck draft. But I'm actually going to go, do I go Morris Johnson or Hans Steinbeck? I'm going to go Morris Johnson Jr. I think Morris Johnson Jr. from Michigan had one of the best testings and one of the highest stock rising from the draft combine. He had great measurements. He was shooting the ball well. He looked athletic and quick. And Morris Johnson Jr., I think, could just fill in so well with this young Hornets team. I think he's just an excellent player for this squad. And that is the 14 picks that I selected. I will be showing that on the screen. I'll take a little screenshot of this so you guys aren't having to see my face. But that's going to be my NBA mock draft of the 2026 NBA draft. That's my first mock draft. Sorry, I worded that horribly. But that's also going to be the end of podcast number 97 of Sports Talk with JWock. Thank you guys so much for your continuous support. If you haven't already, you could always like and subscribe and share this video and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. I apologize for not uploading last week. I don't remember if I said it earlier, but my brother had a graduation and I should have said something, so I apologize for that. But I will see you all next week, and I hope you all have an amazing week. God bless.